otherwise known as MAGA Barbie in the WNBA, is a superstar player. She's one of the most famous female athletes in the world because she stood up for women in women's sports, saying only biological women should be allowed to play in the WNBA. And for that, she is literally risking her life. Check this out. This is what happened to Sophie Cunningham last night when she was clotheslined by a filthy, dirty player for Chicago who has a name that I can't pronounce, or maybe I just refuse to do that. That's my right as an American. But this is a player that has attacked Caitlin Clark, gouged her eye out, that has now bloodied the face of Sophie Cunningham, and as soon as she did this, she tweeted white privilege, meaning she's declaring this is a race crime. Now, if a white woman was doing this to black women, it'd be the #1 story in the world. She'd be banned from the league forever. But somehow black women are allowed to get away with this against white women. And it's white women in the league who make themselves a target by simply standing up for traditional values.
So with 2 minutes left in the first quarter, DJonai Carrington just slapped the dog shit out of Sophie Cunningham. Sophie pops up. She's obviously upset. DJonai says, "Try me." And then look at Stephanie White. Look at her face. Look. She's mad as shit. Now, number one, this is obviously a flagrant 2. It just is. By the letter of the law, you got to call a flagrant.
Goo! That's assault, brother. You can't do that. What the fuck? Is this just the default if you can't think? Or if you just like don't want to take accountability for your actions? Oh my god, this league, bro, this league. Oh, white privilege while you're wearing a bleach blonde dyed wig. I mean, the fuck? What is privileged about that? You stone cold Steve Austin clotheslined her ass. What about that is white privilege? The WNBA stays undefeated. It truly does. They can't get out of their own way.
That girl needs to be thrown out the league. She's not even a good enough player to be bringing this type of drama. She needs to be thrown out.
DJ Carrington's ejection could have ended as just another heated moment in a WNBA game. Instead, what happened afterward turned the situation into something much bigger. Carrington took the conversation online, posting a short but highly controversial message that immediately sparked backlash: white privilege. Rather than fading away after the initial reaction, the controversy has continued to grow. In the days since, Carrington has tried to explain her position, respond to criticism, and push back against people challenging what she originally posted. What started with one ejection has now become a much wider debate across social media, with fans and critics dissecting every part of the situation. And the way this story has unfolded has made it one of the more unexpected WNBA controversies of the season.
Beyond concerning at this point how far from the plot we have actually gotten. And when I say the plot, I mean the basketball. How far from the game of basketball we have spiraled. When we're talking about the WNBA, you know, we used to joke, it's like, oh, 0 days without drama in the WNBA. This league is living up to it at a rate and a level of concern that we haven't ever had. With all the
going on in the WNBA, DJonai Carrington tweeted out white privilege from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this, she fouled Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously a white person, fouls her hard. Flagrant 2, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now here's the kicker to me. A flagrant 2 has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. DJonai, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege, this was not it. What the hell?
The fact that she said white privilege, that is the story. The story isn't that she got kicked out. It's that she tweeted out white privilege as though because Sophie Cunningham is white, somehow that's why she got kicked out. They go on to defend her, the story, the narrative that she's not a dirty player. She makes plays like this all the time. I put together a little clip of DJ Carrington, who is definitely one of the dirtiest players in the WNBA. I don't know if we can roll it, but she's taken her long fingernails. She's scratched Caitlin Clark's eyes out. She's had multiple instances of chasing people down from behind, trying the same SWAT and smashing them in the head and causing mini fights. She pulled another girl's hair. I don't know if we'll get to that clip in a second when she's falling. Totally dirty play. This is not a skin color thing. She has a history of making making dirty plays, and it's fine. The NBA, you can be a rough and tumble league. Now, where this thing gets absolutely bananas is when you start making it into a race and culture war, and the people talking about it are not mentioning 99% of the time that she went back and tweeted white privilege. White privilege how?
She could have been injured. So they said, yo, get out of here, dog. Get out of here. Then, I don't know if y'all were looking at her lips. She was talking about, try me. Try me. Yo, you already tried Sophie? You got all the samples of Sophie. You talking about try me. What are you talking about? This lady is unhinged right now, man. This is crazy work. And it makes you wonder. It's like, dog, you were the best player for the Sky at this moment. Look how she landed on the leg. Oh my goodness. Like, you were the best player for the Sky, and you decided to do this? You weren't even thinking about the game. You was thinking about some kind of revenge or something. Somebody sent you on a mission. You were on a mission, dog. I don't know what you had going on here, but DJonai, this is unacceptable. Disrespectful, disgusting, and I'm glad they got you up out.
Sophie Cunningham has emerged as one of the most vocal teammates when it comes to defending Caitlin Clark throughout the season. She has repeatedly spoken about what she sees as a lack of protection for Clark, particularly when the physicality around her starts to cross the line. Cunningham hasn't been shy about addressing individual incidents or pointing out moments that she believes deserve more attention from officials. She has also suggested that there have been conversations within opposing teams about testing Clark and making sure she understands just how physical the league can be. Those comments were always likely to create tension, and Cunningham appears to understand that speaking so openly can make you a target. But instead of backing away from the conversation, she has continued to make her position clear.
With you guys today, DJonai Carrington. After clotheslining Sophie Cunningham, running into the locker room, screaming, "That's white privilege!" Then tweeting 8/23, threatening Sophie Cunningham and the Indiana Fever, DJonai Carrington now comes out and clarifies what she means when she says white privilege for the
face coming down trying to prevent the layup, but that is just a hard hit. That's definitely going to be upgraded, I think, to a flagrant 2, Ryan.
I think that is going to be a flagrant 2. There is
get what you fucking deserve.
And just getting her out of the
Lucky
way.
it wasn't a right hook.
Make no mistake about it, Carrington targeted Cunningham. She targeted her because of her political stances. She targeted Cunningham because of the praises that she keeps receiving. She targeted her with a dirty shot that had absolutely nothing to do with basketball. And then after getting ejected, she runs to the locker room to play the fucking victim card. Like, she didn't try to just take off Cunningham's head in 4K. Like, we all didn't just watch it happen. That is not competition. That is a grown woman swinging on someone who she disagrees with and then screaming racism when she gets held accountable for it. DJonai Carrington needs to be held responsible, and I'm not talking about just getting ejected from the game. She deserves a suspension. Maybe she'll think twice next time before she tries to take somebody's fucking head.
Paying attention to what DJonai Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham, it was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the term of white privilege and to also completely ignore the rules in basketball. You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever. So to me, it was just very ignorant and to some degree asinine by DJonai Carrington to suggest that that call was based on white privilege. Have we seen examples of white players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. Have we seen examples of black players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. There was no white privilege involved in that specific call. DJonai, you hit her in the head and you drew blood. It was a flagrant.
That background is important because it explains why this particular incident triggered such an immediate reaction. Cunningham had already made her stance clear about the way Caitlin Clark is treated during games, so when Cunningham herself became involved in a physical play that left her with a bloody face, many viewers naturally started questioning whether there was more to the moment than an ordinary basketball collision. Intent, however, is a separate question from perception. There is no way to know exactly what was going through Carrington's mind during the play simply from the aftermath. But once the ejection happened and the images began circulating, the broader history between these storylines made the incident far more controversial than a routine foul. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about one play, it was about everything that had already been said and debated around Clark, Cunningham, and the physicality surrounding them.
Cunningham, where she proceeded to go into the locker room and tweet white privilege after being thrown out of the game. I'm not going to comment on that situation, but I will say this. This is a flagrant 2. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, don't matter. This is a flagrant. I mean, she clotheslined her. What more do you want? So this looks very bad. It just shows that the WNBA is nowhere near where they need to be professionally, because again, this is a clothesline. It's flagrant.
As though you discovered the moon. You can't act as though you are the genius in a room and everybody else is idiotic. What I mean by that is, if you are going to suggest that we should think critically about a statement white privilege when you at the Indiana Fever, you didn't give us much to think critically about. You uttered a phrase, white privilege, of which is both incredibly inflammatory and also a very volatile word, but you didn't give us any context. So now we, as the interpreter, since you posted it publicly on Threads for the world to see, we, the interpreter, now have to try to figure out what exactly were you talking about. Well, common sense would deduce that you were talking about fouling a white individual and getting ejected for fouling that white individual. Now, as I said on social media and I will say in real life, if that is not what you were talking about implying, then that's on me. I will stand down and I will stand corrected. But the last thing I must again reiterate, we live in a speaker-oriented country. Speaker-oriented, receiver-oriented. Speaker-oriented country. It is on you, the speaker, to be clear, to be direct, and to be obvious with what you are speaking about. It is not on the receiver.
Sid Coulson is saying this, and I know it's a joke. Love a trans fella. This is essentially celebrating a player getting clobbered. You are on TV. You are. Not these other people online. You are. You were on TV basically saying Caitlin Clark was soft for taking a fist to the neck from Alyssa Thomas. You are. You got opportunities because of this organization. You got opportunities because of the like Caitlin Clark brought on your head. You did. You benefited from it. You joined the Indiana Fever for those benefits. You took those benefits. You became more notorious. And as soon as you leave, you rejoin the sisterhood, then it's against.
The controversy also exists within a much larger conversation about how Caitlin Clark is viewed around the league. Earlier this year, broadcaster Dick Vitale criticized a player poll that ranked Clark only 9th among the league's guards, arguing that the result reflected jealousy rather than an accurate assessment of her impact. He also suggested that, over time, players would recognize just how much attention and financial opportunity Clark has helped bring to the league. That earlier debate took on a different tone after the Carrington incident. Once again, a situation involving a player connected to Clark became a major talking point after a physical confrontation on the court. What made the reaction even more complicated was the fact that some responses appeared far from sympathetic, including public support for the incident from someone with a previous connection to the team and comments from the opposing side that were viewed as defensive. None of that proves that there is a league-wide agenda against Clark or her teammates. But when several controversial moments keep becoming part of the same larger conversation, it's understandable why fans are beginning to connect the dots and revisit some of the warnings Vitale made earlier in the season.
Really been dragged. She's been called every name but a child of God. Coaches have come out and spoken against her. Fans have come out in the name of calling Sophie Cunningham anti-trans and transphobic. It's not far-fetched to say that the league itself in totality does not like Sophie Cunningham. And yet, after intentionally grabbing Sophie Cunningham around her neck and getting ejected for that, DJonai runs to Twitter to say the reason why she was ejected was because of the white privilege Sophie Cunningham, a white, straight female, carries in a basically 80% black, almost 90% LGBTQ-led league. Oh yeah, that's where Sophie Cunningham is getting her white privilege, in this WNBA minstrel show of a freaking basketball league. That's where her white privilege is starting to show. DJonai Carrington, you're a fucking joke. You went up thinking that you were gonna get the ball. You knew that you weren't anywhere near getting the ball, and so while you were up in the air, you figured this was your chance to grab her, Sophie Cunningham.
Hard foul. I don't think that DJonai intentionally came out to get her across the neck like she did, but it did happen, and I thought it was the right call. But, you know, one of the things about Nay is that she's going to play her butt off, man. She's going to compete. Nobody's going to go walking in for a layup. And so I don't oppose the hard foul. But I also don't think that she intentionally went for the nose.
Who commits a clear flagrant 2 and then tweets white privilege right after she goes to the locker room. You can't then cry that this is being talked about in racial terms in a culture. She started that. This is a basketball play. The second you go white privilege, and they are talking about it on these telecasts without mentioning what she tweeted. Oh, they're turning into a culture war, turning into a race war. This is our league. Don't let conservatives or the right hijack it. Your player tweeted white.
The sequence on the court was fairly straightforward, but the aftermath is what made it such a major talking point. Cunningham was sprinting ahead on a fast break with a clear path toward the basket when Carrington came from behind to make a defensive play. Instead of making a clean challenge on the shot, Carrington's arm made forceful contact with Cunningham around the face and upper neck area, sending Cunningham crashing to the floor. The shot still dropped, but the basket quickly became secondary. Officials stopped the action and reviewed the contact before changing the original ruling to a flagrant 2. Under WNBA rules, that decision results in an automatic ejection. The review focused on the nature and danger of the contact rather than simply whether a foul occurred. Cunningham was in a vulnerable position, the contact was high, and the play carried an obvious risk of injury. After looking at the replay, the officials determined that the action crossed the threshold for a flagrant 2, bringing Carrington's night to an immediate end. Cunningham didn't stay on the floor for long. She got back to her feet almost immediately, and the frustration on her face was obvious. She moved toward Carrington, but before the confrontation could escalate, teammates and officials stepped in and separated the two players. What happened next also became part of the discussion. According to the crew chief's post-game explanation, Cunningham was not assessed an additional penalty for her reaction because officials considered it understandable given the nature of the contact she had just received. In other words, the officiating crew viewed her response in the context of what had happened moments earlier rather than treating it as a separate incident requiring punishment. That distinction became important because it reinforced just how seriously officials viewed the original contact. The argument wasn't simply about Cunningham being angry, it was about a player reacting immediately after taking significant contact to the face during a fast break play.